They had ruled the stars for millennia, a civilization so vast and old that its origin was no longer a matter of history, but legend. The Galactic Empire had subjugated thousands of species, turned entire worlds into tools of conquest, and reshaped galaxies in its image. Their strength wasn't just in numbers, but in the certainty of their own superiority. No race had ever defied them and survived. None had dared to resist the Empire's will until humanity. When humans first emerged beyond their homeworld, the Empire watched with passive amusement. Another bipedal species, loud and violent, technologically late to the table. At first, they ignored the humans. But then, in less than a few galactic decades, humanity colonized systems faster than most species had in centuries. They mastered hyperspace with reckless ingenuity, bent physics to their needs, and treated the impossible as a suggestion. Their independence was tolerated at first, then observed with irritation, and finally viewed as a threat. It wasn't just their speed, it was their refusal to kneel. The Empire offered them integration. Humanity declined. They offered protection. Humanity declined again. They offered membership. Humanity laughed. That laughter echoed through the chambers of the Imperial Conclave and struck at their pride. The ruling species, the Zyrith, demanded obedience. They had crushed empires for less. But humans didn't react to threats with diplomacy. They responded with silence, with stillness, and that made the Empire nervous. No bribes were accepted. No envoys returned. No spies survived long enough to report anything valuable. It was as if the humans had collectively decided the rest of the galaxy wasn't worth talking to. Among the alien races, whispers began to grow. Were the humans hiding? How did they advance so quickly? Why did they not engage? But the Empire didn't listen. They were used to rebellion, to arrogance from the lesser species. They crushed resistance as a matter of routine. Humanity would be no different. A declaration of war was issued, not out of necessity, but tradition. The Empress spoke of honor, legacy, the need to remind all who ruled the stars. Fleets were mobilized. Broadcasts were transmitted to billions, celebrating the future defeat of the insolent newcomers. Analysts projected victory within one cycle. Hundreds of planets began preparing for celebrations before the battles even began. Throughout all, Earth remained quiet. No speeches, no movements, no reaction. To the Empire, this was taken as weakness. To those who had studied humanity more closely, it was something else, a stillness before something unknown. But the voice of caution was drowned in the tides of certainty. After all, how could one race, only recently interstellar, possibly stand against the full force of galactic rule? The Empire mobilized 7 armadas, each larger than any fleet humanity had ever displayed. They encircled human territory like a noose tightening around a neck. Civilizations across the galaxy watched the feeds, eager for the moment humanity would be humbled. Commentators mocked their silence. Strategists compared this campaign to the Empire's swift suppression of the Trilari Revolt, which had taken only 5 solar days to end. They predicted this would be faster. What the Empire failed to understand was that humanity had not spent their time building fleets to match theirs. They had not invested in creating a military to defend against ancient empires. They had done something else entirely. They had prepared for inevitability in a way no other species had considered. Because humans didn't trust the galaxy, didn't worship hierarchy, and didn't forget history. They had seen what became of civilizations that fought fire with fire. Humanity's answer to tyranny had never been tradition. It had always been disruption. Inside an isolated region of space, known only to a handful of humans, systems powered up. Protocols older than the war itself came online. Something that had never been used before. Something not built but uncovered. It had no weaponry, no fleet, no visible force. Just a mechanism and a purpose. It had been called many things across time. Artifact, ruin, curse, but in human records, it had only one designation. The last protocol. No one in the Empire knew of its existence. No one in the galaxy did. Not even all humans understood what it truly was. But those who did had agreed it would never be used, unless the Empire made it necessary. Now, it was necessary. One official remained in the chamber, staring at the interface. No dramatics, no tension, just understanding. The Empire believed it was about to show the universe what happened when defiance met power. But they had never considered that the defiant might hold something worse than war. The button was pressed, not in rage, not in vengeance, simply necessity. The Empire's armadas moved with synchronized precision, each fleet commanded by battle-hardened admirals from species bred for war. Billions of soldiers, advanced weapon systems, and interstellar dreadnoughts formed an iron wall across the border of human space. To them, this was routine. Humanity had no comparable fleets, no ancient alliances, no planetary defense grids known to rival imperial tech. There was no suspense, just the expectation of swift domination. Yet humanity did nothing. No emergency signals, no military broadcasts, no redeployment of civilian vessels. Observers noted that Earth and its colonies appeared undisturbed. Trade continued. Communications remained open but devoid of urgency. It was as if humanity either didn't notice or didn't care. This unnerved a few within the Empire, but dissent was quickly dismissed. Confidence ruled. Alien media mocked the humans. Analysts accused them of naivety. Some believed they were surrendering in silence. Others suspected hidden desperation. A handful of military strategists raised quiet concerns. Why no defensive movements? Why no fleet buildup? Why no negotiations? Every species before had scrambled in panic. Humans showed none. High Command reviewed data again and again. All scans returned normal. No mass energy spikes. No hidden fleet clusters. No exotic signatures. The humans were exactly as they appeared. Silent, exposed, unprepared. It made no sense. A species intelligent enough to colonize dozens of systems shouldn't respond with stillness. Yet there it was. Stillness. On several key worlds within human territory, strange anomalies began to surface. Drones vanished without interference. Observation posts went dark without a trace. Communication satellites relayed static before cutting off entirely. When investigated, no debris, no signs of attack, no radiation, just absence. The Empire labeled them system failures. A statistical fluke. No one considered it significant. One Imperial scout ship reported a distortion field near a dead moon in human-controlled space. The field was uncharted, non-responsive to probes, and fluctuated in a way that defied current understanding. The data was flagged and ignored. The ship vanished 3 hours later. No distress beacon, no evidence of conflict, just silence. Inside Earth's deep archives, disconnected from public networks, human leadership reviewed contingency data. The last protocol had been activated. Confirmation logs were locked in quantum encryption. No further action was needed. No missiles would be fired. No fleets would be moved. The system had already begun. The protocol wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not destroy. It did not conquer. It didn't require targeting or precision. It was a correction algorithm on a scale incomprehensible to most civilizations. Technology unearthed from a derelict world buried under layers of dead time. What remained of a species so advanced? Even their ruins destabilized space itself. Humanity hadn't created it. They had discovered it, deciphered it, feared it. Once triggered, the system sought only one criteria: non-human sentience within defined spatial vectors. It identified all relevant biological matter, isolated it across folded dimensions, and neutralized it by removal. Not through violence, but erasure. It did not recognize species, intentions, or morality. It recognized only patterns. Everything else became noise. While the Empire finalized its final approach, the system expanded unnoticed. No signal, no heat, no sound. Ships patrolling near human borders began to flicker out of existence. Surveillance footage cut off mid-frame. Entire communication hubs blinked offline with no event marker. Initially thought to be sabotage, Soon the pattern was undeniable. It wasn't hacking. It wasn't an attack. It was vanishing. Panic began to take root. Orders to pull back were issued but never received. Fleets disappeared mid-maneuver. Colonies fell silent. Entire moons, once bustling with Imperial presence, showed no life. Recon ships sent to investigate didn't report back. They simply ceased. One by one, the 7 armadas became 6, then 4, then none. Not destroyed, absent. Not defeated, removed. The Empire's internal network collapsed under the weight of uncertainty. There were no survivors, no black box data, no wreckage to analyze. Just growing silence. As news spread, secondary systems began shutting down. Allied species of the Empire began disappearing. The pattern became unmistakable. It wasn't a military strike. It was systemic elimination of non-human sentience within a defined spatial radius. The humans weren't fighting a war. They had pressed a button. Within Imperial command, reality shifted from confidence to dread. They hadn't declared war on a defiant race. They had stepped on a trigger left by forces older and far more dangerous. Humanity had given no resistance because none was needed. Their silence wasn't cowardice. It was restraint. A signal was finally detected deep beneath Earth's surface, impossibly old and layered in encryption methods not of human origin, an alien origin. And yet, humans had been its sole custodians. A single pulse had activated a cascade effect across spatial dimensions, and now it could not be undone. The galaxy had prepared for war. Humanity had prepared for finality. The first wave of shock rippled through the outer sectors. Entire systems ceased transmission. No warning, no trace. Civilizations that had hosted Imperial garrisons now reported silence. Communications relays echoed with nothingness. Panic sparked, not from enemy fire, but from the absence of anything at all. A dread not rooted in violence, but in disappearance. Military command centers across the Galactic Empire scrambled for answers. Reconnaissance teams were dispatched, only to vanish themselves. Entire battalions, planet-side and in orbit, were gone without conflict. No signs of evacuation. No corpses. No atmospheric anomalies. Just an eerie stillness. Intelligence analysts, stripped of data, speculated everything from internal mutinies to mass sabotage. But each theory collapsed under the same impossible fact. Nothing remained. In hushed corridors of the Imperial core, the last remaining high strategist convened a crisis session. One name kept surfacing: humanity. But the idea was dismissed repeatedly. The Empire had faced thousands of rebellious races. None had ever accomplished more than delaying their own defeat. Humans had no fleets, no known superweapons, and no alliances. Yet, systems bordering human space were the first to fall silent. Every point of contact had a single common factor: proximity to them. Scientific enclaves attempted to analyze the voids. Instruments failed to detect gravitational mass where entire planets once bustled. Artificial satellites remained, drifting aimlessly in orbits with no ground control. Time displacement anomalies began appearing in the data, as if entire regions of space had been rewound, fast-forwarded, or erased from continuity. One by one, the research teams attempting to study these areas also vanished. In desperation, the Empire deployed its most sacred artifact, the Overseer Beacon, a relic said to detect spatial distortions across dimensions. For the first time in recorded history, the beacon's central core failed to activate. An internal failsafe triggered a message, encrypted in a language older than any civilization still breathing. Protocol in motion. Observers detected. Termination engaged. The beacon was gone seconds later. Survivors from fringe colonies attempted to flee toward uncharted territories. Some ships made it far enough to transmit fragmented reports. The messages were filled with terror. Crews vanishing mid-sentence. Navigation systems resetting coordinates to null vectors. One captain, moments before losing contact, uttered, "They didn't kill us. They rewrote us." By now, the Empire's leadership was reduced to isolated enclaves. No central control, no unified plan. Their dominance had been so absolute, they'd never prepared for a reality where fear wasn't of death, but of becoming unmade. Military command AI across thousands of starships failed simultaneously, unable to comprehend the phenomenon. Every non-human consciousness, organic or synthetic, had become a target. Only humans were left untouched. In the ruins of an observation post, a lone alien scientist pieced together fragments of human research logs. The data wasn't encrypted, just unreadable by standard Empire tech. A primitive human interface had stored it in analog redundancy. What she decoded shattered all understanding. The last protocol was not designed. It was not constructed. It was awakened. Millennia ago, a prehuman species had unlocked a method of existential reset, an event-triggered designed not to kill, but to filter. No hatred, no judgment, just cold criteria. Humanity had stumbled upon its remnants in a lost system humanity only referred to as Edenfall. They didn't understand it completely, but they understood enough. They rebuilt parts of it, hid it, tested its boundary conditions, and then sealed it behind a single failsafe. A command interface they swore never to touch unless their existence faced obliteration. The Empire's war declaration had crossed that threshold. The system didn't destroy empires. It made it so they had never existed within its observable framework. Like a galactic immune response, triggered not out of aggression, but systemic necessity. The humans hadn't attacked. They had activated the cure for tyranny. A final transmission pulsed across surviving relay points in ancient code. It came not from any known military channel, but from an Earth-based civilian network, open and unguarded. The message was short, translated across hundreds of languages. We asked for peace. You chose silence. Now you are part of it. That was the last confirmed contact with the Empire. Outside of human space, what remained were scattered, terrified remnants. Nomadic fleets of aliens no longer recognized by the star maps they once dominated. Their memories intact, but their histories erased. No one answered their calls. No one pursued them. No one needed to. Human space remained untouched, clean, monitored, not defended in the traditional sense, observed by systems now deeply tied to the fabric of the universe itself. Nothing attempted contact again. The galaxy did not burn. It fell silent. The remnants of the Galactic Empire drifted in obscurity, no longer a force but scattered pockets of memory. The great species that once commanded galaxies now lived in fragments, huddled in silence, too afraid to speak the name of the ones who erased them. Trade routes collapsed. Cultural hubs faded into irrelevance. Even among survivors, no one claimed leadership. To rule meant visibility. To speak meant risk. Silence became their new form of survival. Across distant stars, scattered vessels whispered to one another in code, passing the same question again and again. Were the humans still watching? No answer ever came. That was the worst part. There were no threats, no ultimatums, no visible sign of dominance. Only the certainty that humanity could press the button again and didn't need to. Entire species, once proud of their place in the galactic hierarchy, now avoided human space entirely. Maps were redrawn, not by negotiation, but by fear. The territory of humanity was left untouched, not because of treaties or mutual respect, but because it was understood. Humans did not negotiate once the line was crossed. They only erased. The message had been delivered, not in word or war, but in absence. Final, absolute. Some alien scholars from isolated sanctuaries debated what humanity had truly done. Was it annihilation or something worse? Those who had studied the last protocol theorized it had not simply removed matter. It had filtered it from shared dimensional presence. Not death, but non-existence within the observable frame. A state where nothing could remember, reach, or revive. It was not vengeance. It was precision, devoid of malice or cruelty. A few brave emissaries attempted to approach human borders over the following decades. No response. Not rejection, just no sign they had been noticed at all. A signal, perhaps, that humanity had returned to what it valued before conflict, quiet advancement. They had no interest in conquest. They had proven their point and resumed their own path, uninterested in ruling what remained. Among human colonies, life returned to normal. No grand celebration, no parades. The event was not discussed openly, not taught, not glorified. Only a few within the command hierarchy knew the extent of what had been unleashed. Even among them, it remained an unspoken burden. Humanity had not desired destruction, but survival with dignity. They had tolerated the threats, ignored the posturing, endured the provocations. But they had drawn a line. When crossed, they responded with a solution not rooted in rage, but finality. The last protocol remained armed but dormant, sealed once more beneath layers of secrecy. There was no pride in its use, only necessity. Humanity never wanted to be feared, but they had accepted it was the only language the galaxy understood. Peace, when asked politely, had been ignored. Peace, when demanded silently, had been obeyed. Alien civilizations that still existed evolved differently in the wake of the silence. Some became isolationist, fearful of provoking unseen watchers. Others formed entire belief systems around the humans, worshipping them as cosmic arbiters who could unmake existence. A few tried to recreate the technology. Every attempt failed. It wasn't something that could be rebuilt. It was a relic humanity hadn't invented, but had learned to wield. The only known species capable of turning myth into enforcement. One chronicler, from a distant world spared by chance, wrote the final historical entry the galaxy would share. Humanity did not win a war. They redefined the meaning of consequence. Where others sought dominance, they held patience. When forced to act, they did not fight, they removed. In deep space, unmanned monitoring stations remained active, watching for anomalies, scanning for any reemergence of those who might forget. Not to strike, but to remain aware. Humanity's greatest weapon was never the protocol. It was their resolve, their refusal to repeat the mistakes of past empires, their ability to end without conquest, to vanish without taking credit, to survive without needing applause. In the vast silence that followed, the galaxy changed, not through battle or treaty, but through the imprint of one irreversible action. Fear became discipline, silence became reverence, and humanity, as always, moved forward, watched, remembered, never challenged again.